It was a riveting performance by the South Korean artist in the backdrop of loud cheers from the North Korean audience. Kim Jong-un and his wife made a surprise visit to watch the performers and even took photos together after it was over. In many ways, the South Korean art troupe's performance in Pyongyang was a resounding success. The foreign media has also been watching the events unfold with a watchful eye. The New York Times reported that North Korea has rolled out the red carpet for the K-pop performers, a radical departure from the past when they were treated with disdain. And according to the Wall Street Journal, the performance symbolized South Korea's soft power and its ability to leverage K-pop as a means of diplomacy and in easing cross-border tension. Meanwhile, in profiling the members of the South Korean art troupe, the South China Morning Post pointed out that Kim Jong-un's father Kim Jong-il had been a fan of South Korean singer Cho Yong-pil. A South Korean art performance was arranged to coincide with the first-ever family reunions of those separated by the Korean War. Two Koreas subsequently engaged in many follow-up cultural exchanges. The exchanges eventually came to include pop music around the year 2000, when a mood of peace prevailed on the Korean peninsula. South Korean idol groups performed in North Korea for the first time in 1999. And later in 2005, K-pop legend Cho Yong-pil also held a sold-out solo concert. After entering a hiatus in 2005, inter-Korean cultural exchanges were revived more than a decade later in 2018 as a result of the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games. Following confirmation of North Korea's participation in the PyeongChang Winter Olympic Games, Pyongyang dispatched an art troupe south of the border for the first time in nearly 15 years. A South Korean art troupe performed in Pyongyang as a reciprocal gesture 2 months following the visit by the North Korean artists. With inter-Korean cultural exchanges being revived for the first time in more than 10 years, we sit down with a panel of journalists to discuss what all of this means and what the future holds in this week's edition of Foreign Correspondents. Now, when we talk about the arts and culture, there are numerous possibilities: plays, films, dances, and even within music we have numerous genres like Western classical music or traditional Korean music. So why do you think every time we have a cultural exchange, K-pop stars headline the event?
Well, I think it's the, most common, perhaps, performing art that can be consumed in North Korea. Plays are a little bit smaller subculture than, I think, music, performing arts, and it's something that North Koreans might be more familiar with, both the elites and other people in North Korea.
Okay. Now, leading the South Korean art troupe was record producer Yoon Sang. Do you see a problem with the fact that an artist headed such an important delegation as opposed to a diplomat or a government official?
No, I think it's completely appropriate for an artist to lead artists. In fact, I think that actually shows the importance of, and the importance that South Korean society places its artists, right? It believes that it can, an artist isn't just one thing, right? They can also play diplomatic roles, even though that's not their official title. So I thought it was great.
I'd be more worried if it was a politician in charge that didn't know anything about organizing a concert and that type of thing. And I would, also suggest that it might, indicate more of a politicization of the entire event by having an artist take control of it. Then it kind of, I think, subsumes the political nature of the event and maybe places the performers at ease a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, and Yoo Sung made a very interesting declaration. Before leaving, he said, I want to impress the North Korean public as much as we do in South Korea.
또 북에 계신 동포 여러분들께 저희들이 한국에서 보여드리는 것과 다를 바 없는 그런 똑같은 감동과 어색하지 않음을 전해드리는 게 아마 가장 첫 번째 숙제가 아닌가 생각합니다.
And I think that was it was exactly where he was supposed to be, and I think he was the best person to do that.
Yeah, impress them with the artistic finesse.
Exactly, yeah.
Now let's talk about the using culture as a diplomatic tool. Having the North Korean performers down here in the South during the PyeongChang Winter Olympics, how effective do you think that was in opening up or changing the South Korean public's perception of the North?
Well, I think that's a little bit more problematic because North Korean artists are, of course, heavily controlled by the North Korean government, whereas in South Korea they're a lot freer in terms of their artistic creation and, open to perform and things of that nature. So that's a little bit more problematic for me. However, I do still believe that too is a key element in the exchanges between North and South Korea that can build to greater trust between the two countries, and as Elise mentioned, slowly, step by step, lead to possible negotiations on other issues and other types of exchanges.
Right. Do you think the Pyongyang group's performance here in South was effective in perhaps breaking some of the South Korean youth out of apathy regarding North Korean issues?
I don't know that it was successful with the youth. The people that I interviewed in Gangneung outside the concert talked a lot about how nostalgic they were. So these were older folks,
Right.
or people at least baby boomer, or not baby boomers, Gen Xers, so people in middle age, like 40s, who kind of recalled some times of more unity, or you know, just some of the music or influences of North Korea better than, say, people in Gen Y in their 20s or in their teens. And so I still think there is a generational divide between sentiments on North Korea and unification.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. And I think even among younger generation in South Korea, I think there is even a bit of rejection. Like, like where they see the North Korean performance as so old-fashioned and so stiff and doesn't resonate at all. And I think it showed them, oh, wow, maybe North Korea is really a different country. So it could have a
counter effect.
Counter effect as well, yeah.
I think that's going to be the real challenge in terms of bringing the two Koreas closer together and any potential sort of federal arrangement or unification is that perception of the youth in South Korea. The generational divide kind of has this gap in the middle, the Gen Xers that Elise mentions that are sort of more interested in rapprochement with North Korea, engagement with North Korea unification. Then you have the elderly set that are more conservative, and then there's the youth that are conservative in their perspective toward North Korea and more worried about their own lives in South Korea, which has become, to their perceptions, a really, truly different country.
Right, it's more of a pressing issue for them. Well, then what do you think can be done to make sure that they have more interest, that they're more invested in this whole issue?
I think the only way, if you really want to do that, is to have like face-to-face individual exchanges between schools, between the two Koreas, between people.
So between the two youths.
And it's today it's totally impossible. But I don't think concerts can do that. Really, if you really want to make the young South Korean interested in North Korean issues, you need them to meet counterparts.
Have face-to-face contact.
Yes, that's the only way. I mean, this is what happened after the war between France and Germany. The two governments decided to have a lot of exchanges between schools. I went to Germany, we had a school, we came to France, and this is how you build a friendship between two countries. And this is a long-term project, but now with North Korea, who doesn't want to open their border.
That would help them make them see as a human before being a member of this alienated state.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, now going forward from here, the title of the South Korean art troupe's performance was The Arrival of Spring, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, he proposed the idea of the arrival of fall to be held in Seoul later in autumn. What do you think the possibility of that happening?
I think it's a positive thing. You know, it keeps this whole peacetime atmosphere we have going on right now instead of these back and forth threats between the U.S. and North Korea. It keeps peace rather than, maintaining tension. So I think that's great.
Do you think it would be likely?
I think, yeah, I mean, it depends on these concerts are not a cause of a better relation, they're just a symptom, they're a consequence of a better relation. So we'll see if the two Koreas manage to find an agreement, manage to, maybe with this day there is a talk about a peace treaty, we don't know, maybe, but if the good relationships continue, yes. And I hope we'll have as many cultural exchanges as possible. It's a great thing.
I think it really depends what happens on the two summits.
On the 27th.
The Kim Moon summit on the 27th and the May summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. If those summits go smoothly and there's no sort of hiccups there. And also, I think another thing that the Moon Jae-in administration has done really well is it's maintained the momentum with other sort of incremental events from the time that North Korea came to the Olympic Games. There was other meetings, the proposal of the summits, and it's been continuous. If there's some type of a gap, I mean, over the summer, so let's say they meet by May, you have June, July, August, before you get into the
arrival of fall,
whether we'll be able to carry over that time without some incidences, and hopefully, as I mentioned, the Moon Jae-in administration will have some other sort of incremental exchanges that will carry on this sort of peace initiative.
All right. Now, speaking of the Trump-Kim summit, do you think we might see a similar cultural exchange between Washington and Pyongyang leading up to that summit?
I think that's kind of unlikely. You know, I think there was a sort of a singular window and affinity between North Korea and South Korea that enabled this to happen. There is a possibility, maybe something like an orchestral concert. There had been something like that before.
Yeah.
The New York Philharmonic played in North Korea, something like that. But I don't think you're going to see U.S. rap artists perform in North Korea.
And it's interesting you mentioned this Philharmonic Orchestra. That was in 2008, and I mean, media talked a lot about it at the time, but this orchestra didn't lead, this exchange didn't lead to any, it had no impact actually. It didn't change much. Once again, it's just a consequence of better relationship at the time between the US and North Korea, but there was no impact at all.
And there's also the language barrier as well with the two Koreas. Even if they sang their own songs, the other party could understand.
Sure.